Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
So Ryan, Ali, thanks so much for coming in today. It's a beautiful Sunday. Ryan, you've been in Kelowna for almost 30 years and Ali for about 5 years. Ryan, starting with you, tell us the story of how you got to...
So I grew up in Winnipeg, and my family moved here in 91. My dad started up his own business, and as well as my mom joined in on that as well. And then I just started high school here. I was 15 years old, so grade 11 and 12, I did that here at Mount Bushry on the west side. And then, just kind of lived my life all the way through till then. A couple of trips here and there, Australia and all that stuff, and traveled a little bit, but most of my life I've been here.
Did you ever think of leaving?
Not really. Not to move. No, not at all. Like this is... I mean, you come from Winnipeg. This is paradise. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we have a lot of people here from Winnipeg. I'm from Toronto, but it's interesting. All the stories of where people came from. How about you, Ali?
I'm your typical story. Came from Alberta. We used to vacation out here in the summer. So when I was 14, my parents kind of semi-retired and we moved to Salmon Arm. Mm-hmm. Then I finished high school there, did a couple years at university. I worked as a trainer in Australia for 2 years before deciding to come back to Kelowna and go to school. Right. So I did my physio assistant program there, and I've been in Kelowna since.
Neat. So how do the two know each other?
We work together.
Okay.
So I was at Body Shop Training Center on the west side for the I've been a coach there for about almost 8 years now. Been a member there almost 10. Mm-hmm. And Ali's been around for a few years now.
Yeah, it's my third year as a member and about a year and a half, almost 2 as a coach.
Mm-hmm. So coach, like a fitness coach.
Yes.
Do you both do the exact same thing or different?
She has a little bit. She does the fitness end of it. Or sorry, the nutrition. She's got that added onto her resume. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm more just leading the classes, personal training. Sometimes a Dr. Phil moment to some people as well.
Right?
So,
tell us about that. So, I know there's a lot of psychology around sports and getting in shape. Mm-hmm. And North America, there's a big problem with overeating, undereating, bad nutrition, poor physical fitness, a lot of people living sedentary lifestyles. Mm-hmm. So tell us about some of the psychological issues you face. Your Dr. Phil moments.
My Dr. Phil moments. Well, I always break it down as this. So I kind of give people a broad range of a little bit of history. Yeah. A little bit. And so since World War II, I'm going way back now.
Right. I love history.
I know.
So that's great.
So since World War II, we learned how to mass manufacture stuff.
Right.
We did 3 things that have kind of messed up the human body to be lazier. So we've mass produced the couch, the refrigerator, and the television.
Okay.
So if you think about it, since the 1950s, we started mass producing this stuff to the point where everybody now has a couch, a television, at least one, and the refrigerator. Yeah. So now we can keep food and for long periods of time. We can relax for long periods of time, and we can be entertained for long periods of time while being relaxed and fed.
Right.
So if you look at that, and also in the fact of big pharma's gotten bigger, mass producing food, not the best thing for you, preservatives, whereas pre-World War II and beyond that, not everybody had a fridge. You kind of ate when you had to eat or could eat. You had to, maybe farm your own food, hunt your own food or whatever. Mm-hmm. And nowadays everything's available. Yeah. I always say now we literally can go down the street from here, go down to Chevron, spend $5 each and fill this table full of candy.
Yeah.
Right. That was never before that, even when you and I grew up.
Yeah,
in the 70s and 80s, there was, a Max in your town or a 7-Eleven or maybe a McDonald's if you're lucky, but now it's on every corner.
Yeah. when I was growing up, candy was a treat, but it wasn't like so everywhere. And I don't recall, like gas stations, I think it was like late 80s, 90s, you'd start to buy things at the gas station. Besides motor oil, washer fluid, stuff like that.
Well, candy's like a car. It's a privilege, not a right.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And television, of course, I think we all understand that. It kind of hypnotizes people and makes them forget that you need to move.
Well, exactly.
So, Ali, tell us about your background with nutrition and fitness.
So I guess my background's, it's a little different, and I like to be brutally honest when people talk to me. I was a trainer, got really caught up in the whole physique side of things, took the whole paleo clean eating way too far. I developed anorexia and orthorexia, which is basically an eating disorder, but only focusing on what's deemed healthy. So you're eating foods, but it's nothing else. No preservatives, no carbs, no this, no that.
So even if you need to eat, you're going to avoid something because
I would choose not to unless it was healthy. I'd rather not. So that's kind of what I went through. That's what brought me back to Kelowna. I needed to get treatment. So I went into inpatient treatment for 3 months, and like 3 or 4 months out of treatment, I found Body Shop. So having been a trainer, I had a background in fitness, and thankfully that's what kept me as healthy as I could. But I was brutally honest with Ryan and Brad, like where I was and what I needed. And they taught me basically to view my body differently and what my body could do and what it needed to be fueled. And it wasn't easy by any means. It was a struggle, but they kept me accountable, and the community in there kept me accountable, and they welcomed me with open arms.
Nice.
But it was empowering. Like I felt strong and I wanted to get stronger. I was okay with eating more. And then I hired a nutrition coach, and that's kind of what sparked my interest with nutrition. So I got certified in that about 2 years ago. Started working with some clients online, and then Brad and I implemented like an HSN nutrition program through our gym.
What's HSN?
So it's called Healthy Steps Nutrition. We get people on this in-body machine, which tests their body fat, muscle mass, skeletal mass. And then I figure out what their goals are, and I kind of work alongside with an RD, and we set people up on meal plans, but it's no restrictions. I'm not taking away food groups. I'm not telling you to be keto or paleo or this. It's just realistic food that's family friendly and whole foods. Right. It's the perimeter of the grocery store. It's stuff that's grown. Right. It's not coming in a bag or a box.
Right. And once you have a little bit of skills, it's not the hardest thing in the world. It's actually quite enjoyable to prepare food. I worked at a grocery store, vegetable store, and I learned so much about vegetables. In like 3 months I was there. The stuff I didn't even know how to use a knife properly before that, I think that's kind of a symptom of our modern culture. So what do you say to people who think it's kind of overwhelming? Like, I'm working 60, 70 hours a week. I got to buy stuff that's convenient, I think it's too hard to buy stuff, prepare it, and too complicated. What do you say to people like that?
I think it's, I mean, she might have a different answer. I'm again, a little bit blunt that way. It's being organized, right? To be honest, everything comes down to being organized.
Right.
I think it's as simple as when I hear I'll call them excuses, but disorganized excuses of, well, my kids had hockey, so I just got home at this time, and then I was only able to do this and this and that. So it just piles on throughout your day. Your 8-hour day becomes a 12-hour day, and the next thing you know, you just want to sit in front of the TV and chill.
Right.
Everybody has kids that have hockey.
Right.
The doctor, the lawyer that has 14-hour days, his kids have hockey. Yeah. So what makes the realtor or the teacher or the other people, not saying that you guys are any different, but your hours for a realtor are all over the place.
Yeah.
You're just organized. You have to be organized.
Yeah.
And prioritize your organization. And it's as simple as this. It'll catch up.
Yes.
It will catch up to you. We see people like, your 20-year-old, they pretty much can battle through anything other than chronic disease, right? Like if they twist their ankle, they're just going to power through it. And, kids are made of rubber.
Yeah.
The 30-year-old, once you've had a kid, stuff starts like life, we call it life gets in the way.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get organized right away and put 1 hour of your day towards fitness, that's 4% of your life in towards fitness. That's nothing.
Yeah.
Everybody has 1 hour to do something. It doesn't have to be going to a gym or eating health. Like it's just, everybody can meal prep or something. Like you can figure something out to eat healthy, because we did it, like I said, years ago. Mm-hmm. Our grandparents did it and they were able to do it.
Yeah.
Nothing's changed.
And don't overthink it. Like on a Sunday after you go grocery shopping, before you can put stuff away, just start your crock pot, start your oven, throw 10 chicken breasts in, throw a bunch of sweet potatoes or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just cook a bunch up at once, have it in the fridge for the next 4 days.
Yeah.
It saves money. Mm-hmm. You're done everything within an hour and a half. Or buy an Instant Pot. That's what I'm telling all my
What's
guys.
that?
The little Instant Pot. It's like the lifesaver. Really? I can cook 4 different meats within like 2 hours.
Amazing.
And it's boom in my fridge, and I'm not spending money on takeout. I'm not stopping, and it's healthy.
And so planning is really the key. So if you've got a grocery list, see, I think myself and a lot of us, we go to the grocery store and we're like, I need that, but it's not really with forethought. It's more like, I used that last week, so I'm going to use it this week, but it's not like a Sunday afternoon plan the entire week.
Well, the thing too is what we always hear this is like, well, my kids can't eat what I eat. Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Your kid can't have a steak.
Right.
Your kid can't have chicken. Your kid can't have vegetables. So what are you telling me?
Kids are a little bit spoiled these days.
Oh, yeah.
I can tell you, we have three teenagers in this house that are like, I don't like that. Well, it's too bad.
That's
you
and
I grew up, and that's the thing. You and I grew up in the era right when Hot Pockets and Pizza Pops and all this stuff was like really big and pushed on us.
Yeah.
And I always say, because a lot of people, like, because I'm in my 40s, someone say, "Oh, Ryan, you wear a lot of brand name stuff."
I wouldn't guess 30s.
Yeah,
you know,
I'm fortunate that way, but a lot of people will say, "Ryan, you wear a lot of brand name stuff." I'm like, I grew up through the 70s and 80s. It was mass marketing.
Yes,
you weren't cool unless you wore Nike, Bo Jackson, Wayne Gretzky, Michael Jordan, all that stuff. That was the cool stuff. Nowadays, they've leaned back towards anti-branding, anti the man kind of stuff. But it's still clothes is clothes, and it's coming back around where people are still wearing brands. But I think too, where it's the same thing when it comes to nutrition. Like the big push now is eating healthy, and I think too, people have got to know what they should their gut biome can eat, right? And that's huge because, and Ali can testify to this a little bit more, is just the fact that, since World War II, we've done so much in America and North America. There's so much, and I'm going to use the word, and I don't mean to say, it's not to sound different, but there's so much breeding of races which is amazing. But again, your cultures are changing cultures with eating as well.
Right.
So you're crossing cultures. Like I'm half Indonesian Irish.
Wow.
But I can't have anything spicy. So Thai food, Indian food, that's out of my diet. I'm very meat potatoes kind of guy. And everyone's different, but I mean, that's kind of, you mix that into nutrition as well, meaning like I'm also half Asian-ish, that I'm also lactose intolerant to a point.
Interesting.
Right? But in our era, milk was pushed on us.
Totally.
Right?
I want to ask you about milk, just while we're on the topic. I was mildly lactose intolerant, and when I switched to grass-fed, totally went away. I mean, I actually like it, and I think it's good.
Yeah.
Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, I think I think milk is the same category as anything that has preservatives. Right. Again, it's why we have the fridge.
The hormones. It's the crap. Right?
Yeah, it's the crap, right? Yeah. It's no different than if you're buying a steak or if you're buying, things everything that sits in your cupboard has preservatives and chemicals. Like you read the back of a Shreddies box or whatever, it's like, this is not whole wheat. This is, something that can last here through the apocalypse if we had to, right? Like milk. Go ahead.
There's been so many diet trends too over the last 20 to 30 years that people aren't realizing the damage that those do to our bodies and our digestion. Like I had no issues with dairy until what I did to my body. I damaged basically my gut health, that I can't do dairy anymore. I can't do eggs, and I've had to rebuild up that, just like what Ryan said, the microbiome, because of all these little trendy diets I've tried back in the day. And it's reversible, or it's at least to a point now where I can enjoy things. But so many people are out there like, oh, I'm celiac or I can't have gluten. It's like, well, no, you can. You're choosing the worst option of a wheat product.
Yeah. Or even just go get a blood test. Like you can get allergy tests or blood tests or hair sample tests that'll tell you. Like I had a friend of ours, or actually a client, his son something was going on, a reaction to his newborn son. Anyways, they did the blood test and all that stuff. Anyways, the kid was allergic to the protein in the egg whites. Now, growing up, we were always told egg whites was the best part of the egg and get rid of the yolk. No, it's the opposite. Right. So you look at it, well, so now egg whites are in everything. So this kid is now going to be set up for life knowing that he can no longer eat egg whites. And we have clients like that too. We have a few that are can. And, there's the extremes of like whether they're vegan or paleo or keto or whatever. And that might be a good start off. And I'm not saying that anybody should do any of those or not do any of those. It should be what is right for you because we're all so different. Like, again, we've crossbred cultures so much that your gut biome is changed. We're not just pure Irish, or we're not just pure Italians, or we're not just, pure Indian or whatever. Like it is now your gut biome and your chemistry in your body is changing. Right?
Yeah.
What works for you and what you can stick with. There's no wrong or right way, but it's what can you stick with for long term? And that's what I try and tell people is if it's fueling you properly and you're feeling energetic and you're able to move better at the gym when we're coaching you, then great. Stick with that because that's achievable.
Totally. And there's kind of a myth too, especially with younger people, that if it's really healthy, it's probably not very tasty. And that's not true at all.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Well, I get meal prep stuff. We either meal prep at home or we get meal prep, like we buy it from a meal prep company. And it is very bland. It's not bland, but it is somewhat flavorless.
But you could add, if you were spice tolerant, you could add spices.
So all I do is I'll take my meal prep, I'll throw it on a frying pan, add a little bit of garlic, a little bit of avocado oil,
right,
and add maybe a small capful of balsamic. Perfect.
And it tastes
perfect
good.
flavor. Yeah, great flavor.
Yeah,
right.
But can you name some names of the companies that do the meal prep?
Yeah, so Morgan from Meal Prep for You.
Okay.
He's been around for, I want to say, about 5 years plus. Yeah. I've been using him for about 3 years now. I'll buy something like 10 meals a week. And I don't use them for every meal, but something like yourself that's a realtor, you're in and out of the house. Yeah. You don't have an extra hour to maybe cook.
Right. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'm the same way because I'm in and out of the gym. Middle of the day, I have nothing to do sometimes, or I'm, in and out of the gym. Doesn't matter. Like it's almost like a split shift. Like we all work like a split shift type of a career. Whereas I'll come home, I've got in my fridge fresh, not pre-frozen. It is fresh that day. So he makes it for me I get one every Sunday and every Thursday or Wednesday. And so it's like, say something as simple as a certain amount of salmon, broccoli, and rice. Another meal might be something like chicken breast, some, what do they call it? Silly.
Oh, vermicelli noodles.
Vermicelli noodles and another vegetable, right? So it's all pre-portioned, right? It's got a certain amount of carbs and all that stuff and protein. Everything is there. And all I have to do is walk into my fridge, grab it, and go. Because, again, in this town, I drive by every single fast food restaurant. And it is so easy to just drive in and go spend $20 here, $15 here. Whereas I've already got a pre-made meal for like $12.
And he makes treats. So you can have fun. You can have a donut. You can have waffles or pancakes. And they're all good quality ingredients. And they're really good for people with allergies or intolerances. So, I actually had one of his waffles for breakfast. And it was like, sweet, like Sunday morning waffles, but I didn't.
They're pretty much made like a Belgian waffle. They're really good. Yeah. You'll have like an apple spice, or you'll have like banana chocolate or chocolate chip bananas or whatever. Right. So they're really good. You get little treats like that. And again, you're talking to someone like Allie who can actually dial you a little bit. And that's, any kind of nutritionist should be able to dial you in and go, okay, this is what we can add. Maybe we can take this away. But at the same time, we know that when you go to a birthday party, there's going to be cake. Right. You should be okay with that.
You should eat it.
Right. We live in the Okanagan. There's wineries every 4 minutes away from each other. Right. We should be able to indulge.
Yes.
Right? A little bit.
Tell us about alcohol. What are some of the issues? Do you find that when people get in shape and their diet is better, some of the alcohol issues get better?
Yeah, we noticed that, in our facility where we are, everything, and we'll get into that too, is everything based on work capacity. So it's not aesthetic based. Everything is based on performance based type of fitness. And
so like energy levels, like how much energy do I have?
Well, work capacity, like so meaning like, so it's a little bit different. I'll say it quickly. Like we categorize what is fitness. We don't look at fitness as an aesthetic. We look at fitness as productivity, right? So it's as simple as, if you were a hockey player, you're judged on your productivity on the ice. You're not judged on how jacked you are, right? Or else Sidney Crosby would not have a job. Sidney Crosby wouldn't have a job, neither would Wayne Gretzky or Marlon Lemieux. They just aren't jacked guys, but they're probably the most productive people in the world when it comes to that specific sport.
Right.
So back to alcohol, I think it's, again, like I'll have a couple glasses of wine with a nice rack of lamb or a steak. Why not? I mean, it complements it. I think it's everything in moderation. I was a Red Bull rep for a few years in my 30s, and there was a lot of indulgence. And it was mixing Red Bull and vodkas and partying all night till 4 a.m, and that's just what you did. I think it's part of the half Irish in me that I'm able to control alcohol a lot. I was just never really a bad drunk. Right. So I might be different than the average person that can, they take 2 Red Bull vodkas and they're under the table. Right. I could have a ton and I was okay. Right. Calories, I was probably intaking a lot of sugar, a lot of unnecessary calories because I'm complementing vodka with something. And I think it's as simple as moderation. I think, I don't have a problem with a little bit of like a Jack and Coke here and there, but I think it depends. It's relaxing the mood. I think it's the same. We're getting into that realm now of cannabis is now the big thing as well. And, it's...
Is it on weekends or is this every night of the week? And I find our athletes, once they get fitter, it's not every night of the week. It's a date night with my husband or a nice dinner out with friends. And with the nutrition program, like I teach people like, okay, if you want to fit this in your life, we can fit it into your meal plan. This is the calories. This is how many carbs you're going to allot for. This is how much fat. But we just make it work. Like we're not going to take it away from you, but we educate you on what it'll do to performance, what it does to overall health.
Yeah, I think alcohol can be put in the same category as cigarettes, right? Like it really is. It does just as much, and it's just as much of a drug, if not a horrible drug in comparison. Like
it can be.
It has an addiction. Definitely. It has an addiction rate. It can do a lot of harm to your body, just like any drug or cigarette. And I think too that everything in moderation. I'm not saying you should smoke, but you know what I mean. I think it's. I think with alcohol, a little taste, it loosens you up at a party or it gets you a little conversational. But I think it comes down to, again, it's that person. Like we know people that are sloppy drunks, and then there's people that are just. They can handle 3 glasses of wine and they can go home without even thinking.
Yeah, I think just based on all the parties and everything I've seen, I think it's potentially the most dangerous drug because when I take cannabis, if I'm high, I know I'm high. I'm not saying, give me your keys, I'm going to go driving because I'm really high. With alcohol, you see people saying, no, I'm totally fine. It kind of curbs your judgment in a way that almost no other drug does. Yeah. Even caffeine, like when you're jacked up by caffeine. But with alcohol, it makes you think you're smarter as you're getting dumber. Type of thing. So it's potentially dangerous for some people.
I grew up with 2 types of friends. Ones were from Bushery and ones were from George Pringle, when George Pringle was a high school back in the day. And the Pringle boys were stoners, and the Bushery boys, we were drinkers and beer drinkers and all that stuff. But it was funny because the guys, the Bushery boys, I wasn't as much, but they were scrappy all the time. It was like fight on Friday nights, or it was looking for a girl. Right? Or the other guys were, like the stoners, hey, you want to go see a movie? Let's go see a movie.
Yeah, just chill.
Like, just chill.
Right?
Yeah. And you wouldn't think about it in the 90s, but now I look back and go, Plus, I mean, the testosterone of a 19-year-old boy is different. Right?
Definitely.
But it's amazing on how that mellowed some of the guys out, and the other guys got very aggressive. It was 2 things. It was very cut and dry with it.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So, nutrition, just going back to that. So you test people. So how do you devise a plan? Because it's not one size fits all.
Not at all.
So for me, productivity. So I used to be a baseball player, minor, like as a kid. But for me, productivity is having energy, mental clarity. So I'm also a writer. I'm a podcaster. I can get a lot more done if I feel awake. without having to have 5 cups of coffee, right? And then at the end of the day, I want to have enough energy to be able to talk to my kids and, have a nice dinner without saying, don't talk, because, I'm overstimulated,
I'm drained.
right? Totally drained. So I'm going to sit in front of the TV, which sometimes happens, right? So what would a diet, a food plan look like for someone who's an office worker like me?
Yeah, so I factor in, obviously someone's activity level, how much are you moving in a day or training in a week? If Ryan sends me a client, I'm like, okay, how many sessions do you guys do together? Yada, yada. I also look at their diet history. So have you used and abused food or alcohol? Do you have any mental health stuff you're working on? People with really high stress jobs where they're using their brain a lot, the brain needs carbs. That's how it runs. That's how it's fueled. So I factor in all of those things. Then I do your body stats on our InBody, which gives me a rating of how much muscle you have, how much fat, your body fat percentage, how much water you're carrying, everything like that. I factor that all into my plan, and I kind of get a breakdown of, okay, this is your basal metabolic rate, which is if you just sat there all day long doing nothing, what do you need to just properly perform your body functions and perform how much hormones you're producing, etc. And then I add on the activity, the work, all of that, and I come up with a nice number of what your caloric intake should be. And then depending what your goals are, if you're sitting more so during the day, then yeah, maybe we don't need so much carbs. Maybe we need a little bit more fat to help keep you awake and alert. And I just break it up accordingly. Sometimes it's a little guess and test. Not everyone's the same, so you play around with it. I always tell people you got to give it 3 to 6 months of working on it because it always is changing.
And then from that, can help devise a meal plan.
Yeah.
Saying this is what
so
you should be eating.
So I'd send them a meal plan as well, being this is exactly your calories that I've prescribed. And this is Monday to Sunday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, pre-workout, post-workout. Right. And then we check in every 2 weeks, retest the body again.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
They get access to an app and we communicate through there, upload photos. It's pretty cool.
Oh, neat.
Yeah.
Very cool. So it sounds like you work together a lot of times. So you'll be devising a fitness program and she'll be devising a nutrition program. So tell us about some of the fitness programs. I know you do CrossFit.
Yep.
And I've heard things about it. Most people that I've talked to think it's great.
Yeah.
But not everybody. So tell us some of the maybe controversy about it.
Yeah, I think the first thing you hear is, oh, that's crazy, and it looks like you could hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And
so what is, first of all?
Okay, so what is CrossFit? CrossFit is functional movements performed at somewhat high intensity, but it's constantly varied. So constantly varied functional movements performed at high intensity. That word high intensity is the scary word to a point because they're not sure what that word means. It just means that there's a time domain or there's a distance given. So it's like saying, I want you to run a mile in a comfortable, it's as comfortable as you feel. That's your intensity. Okay. So your intensity could be different than mine, right? Than hers, right? She's pretty quick. I'm not so quick, but I like running. And 1 mile is probably my limit for some of the long distance running. Right. And it's varies to different people. So if you look at functional fitness, CrossFit kind of put on the map of what is fitness. So back to what we were talking about before is there was never ever really given a broad definition, or there's a broad definition, but an exact definition of what is fitness. So if you look at what fitness was when you and I grew up, it was, what did Arnold Schwarzenegger do, or whatever, Stallone did. Right. And we're supposed to look like that. Right. Yeah. And and what the females were do is calorie deficit, diuretics, get skinny as possible. Right. Right. And so we now know that that's unhealthy. It's not obtainable. It's not saying that those things aren't hard, that those aesthetic people aren't doing a difficult job, or it's not a hard thing to do. It's immensely hard to keep up a diet like what we're just talking about. It's super hard. Doing something where you're actually monitoring your health and fitness for more than 6 months, it's very hard. But I think it's not functional, because I see people that are so-called bodybuilders or whatever you want to call them, gym rats, male or female, that they're not doing the job properly anyway. So they're just going in, they're never taught what to do. They're just told that, well, Arnold does bicep curls, so I'm going to do bicep curls. You know, that girl does squats, so she's going to do squats. Okay, she spends 45 minutes on the treadmill, so why don't I? With no real education.
Or how it can correlate into real life scenarios.
Right.
So if we took that and said that, like, what CrossFit did is it took the word fitness and gave it an exact definition, and probably one of the best definitions of what fitness is, which is work capacity across broad time or mortal domain, meaning the ability to perform and the ability to move things with your body or objects, or just move your body with full ranges of motion. So it's as simple as this. So like if I took something like work capacity and we were to test your work capacity on anything, doesn't matter what you do. Like you said, you play ball, or if you're a nurse, your work capacity is you have a 14-hour shift. Are you able to complete that shift being as productive as possible with the time you're given? So you're given a test. It's your 8-hour to 12-hour day, right? So your work capacity is based on that. You're being paid for that. Just like a hockey player, like I was saying about Sidney Crosby. So what I always tell people is as simple as this. When you're talking about functional fitness, which is squatting, pulling, pushing, running, jumping, skipping, everything we do in normal life. So if I take someone like my dad, who's 76 years old, and I get him to start doing squats, and I start getting him to do presses, doesn't matter, overhead or a bench press, light, right? Those are functional movements, right? We're not talking about an crazy time domain where I'm getting him high intensity. I just want him moving, right? If I've got somebody that's the next step down in age, but maybe it's somewhere more you and I are, well, you and I can jump it up a little bit. Maybe you and I, we're going to test our 1 mile run. And we test our 1 mile run, say we're just sub 10 minutes, right? It's, it's a kind of a jog. But if we really want to push the limits, I want to get you around 6 minutes. And that's increasing our intensity level a little bit, through practice and everything else, that we're doing, strength training and cardio training. And that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to get people the ability to move your body, to be able to move things with coordination and stamina and, agility. And I always say this, it's as simple as, if I were to take you, your job being a realtor has X amount of dollars coming into your household. That's a job, right? And if I took Sidney Crosby, he's doing the same thing. He's got a job, right? Doesn't matter. If he's sick and he gets hurt or sick, he doesn't play hockey. They don't sell tickets, and he's worth, millions of dollars to the NHL and to his own household. You're worth X amount of dollars to your household. The only difference is they're both jobs. They're just zeros on an end of a paycheck. Right? But being sick is being sick. So if I look at my nurses who have a 40% rate of ever being on WorkSafe or WCB claims, 40%, highest WCB claim rate amongst all
Why is
jobs.
That? Stress? Or...
Stress. If you look at it, you think about it, a nurse, your average nurse or caretaker is manipulating dead weight all day long, right? They're manipulating bodies from the ground to the bed to a chair to a gurney all day long. Sleep cycles. You're all over the place, and
the shift
changes, 4 days on, 4 days off. Next thing you know, you're on nights, then you're on days, and they're doing amazing jobs, but at the same time, they're trying to stay productive, and they don't have the easiest jobs either. So you can imagine a nurse going in, she's changed something as simple as bed sheets. Well, they got to get that person off the bed. Well, that person weighs as much as you, I, or the next person. So I think it's as simple as understanding we have about 10 nurses or more with us at the shop, and I would honestly say they're probably fittest nurses, right? Not just aesthetics, but productivity.
And you need to be alert to, and there's an emotional toil dealing with sick people and families and things like that. So
and again, back to your family. So how awesome is it when you do have that time and energy? And productivity, and you've been productive throughout the day, that you have time to go outside and out back, play ball with your kids, or go skating with them in the ice, or going up to big weight. Like, that's the goal in life. It's not to we all want to look good naked. Like, that's human nature. We all want to look good naked. But at the same time, you want to be productive.
Exactly.
You don't want to be that 40-something to 50-something-year-old dad that's watching the kids ski. You want to be with your kids skiing.
Fit enough to do it too.
Exactly.
So that's what we kind of take that methodology of functional fitness. So we take that methodology being the weightlifter and the power lifter, the gymnast doing some when we say gymnast, it's really more body weight movements like pull-ups, push-ups, squats and stuff like that, ring muscle-ups, climbing a rope or whatever. And then we take the cardio aspect of being a runner or a rower and, long distance running or short distance running. And we kind of bring that into 3 circles that kind of intersect. And the person with that intersection that's the biggest, you would say that they're probably the most fittest out of most people because they got a great cardio stamina over a different motor domains. They can lift heavy objects, moving them long distances. And they can also, move their body with, really good range of motion. So when we see people moving, like our first assessment is, depending on how they walked in the gym, if they walked in the gym like your average person, the first thing I get them to do after, a quick little warm up, I want to see how they sit down and stand up. I want to see how they squat. Number one reason why we get put into an assisted living is because you can no longer sit down and stand up off the toilet. There's going to be a point where you and I or someone, we're going to start looking at our grandparents or even our parents and going, wow, like I've had to help mom or dad off the toilet 5 times this month. And I can't keep coming home and finding this. And it's going to be a point where you're stuck there a few hours. And next thing you know, you got police officers and fire up. Like, that's where we get our grandparents and our parents in the old folks home. And that's shame. That's what I work with my dad. I never want to have to deal with my dad on the bathroom. That's basically it.
And it's not even just that age group either. Like there was nothing more empowering as a female than like if my husband needed help moving something, being like, yeah, I can deadlift this couch and press it over my head to carry it through the door. It's like 2.5 years ago, no, I could not have picked up a 250-pound couch with him and picked it up into the back of his truck. And it's like, we're teaching women to do that safely and properly. And it's like, we can do it on our own now. And there's something really empowering about that as a female to not feel as helpless, quote unquote, for lack of a better word. But great. It's like, yeah, we can do it ourselves.
And I think too, it's again, separating. And when we talk about what CrossFit is, it's like talking about what is hockey or golf, right? So, CrossFit is 2 things. It's a methodology of fitness and a great training and strength and conditioning program. If I really want to like layman's terms, it's a strength and conditioning boot. You can either do it one-on-one, small groups or larger groups, just like any other boot camp. Right? I use the word boot camp because that's a common word, right? But the boot camp would consist of weight training, cardio, gymnastics, and things like that.
How frequently does it happen, or should it happen?
3-4 times a week.
3-4 times.
It's optimal.
Yeah.
Right. 2 times a week. Okay. It's hopefully you're going to do something else like a sport. We want to complement it with a sport or an activity, and nutrition, of course. But, the other thing too is there's the functionality of what it is as a training program. And then there's the sport end of it. So if you look at it and go and you see the thing on Netflix where it's like the fittest on earth and there's, these guys and girls that are just jacked and you're like, how did these people get these bodies? Okay, well, that's the extreme end, right? And with the way we get the look of it is there's the difference of the person that just goes to the gym and works on the treadmill and does some bicep curls to the guy that actually competes at Mr. Universe. Right. That it's the same difference, right? There's the common person that just is there to just get some exercise, and then there's the person that's taking it to extreme. So the CrossFit Games is the extreme end of what we do. We both compete CrossFit as a sport, not to that level, but to our abilities as far as we can, and we push that limit. And that there in the sport end of it, that's where you'll see some injuries because we're testing ourselves. We're pushing that limit. So if I see people and people go, oh, you're going to hurt yourself in CrossFit, I said, and I actually had a personal trainer say this to me. They're like, oh, so Ryan, tell me why I shouldn't hate you and hate CrossFit. And I said, oh, okay, so why do you hate CrossFit? And she said, well, there's a lot of injuries and this and this and this. And I said, cool. I said, well, do you ski or snowboard? She's like, I snowboard. I go, have you ever fallen? She goes, yes. I go, have you ever? I said, as a snowboarder, you're constantly up and down and you're always, planting your wrists or planting your butt or your knees. You're falling down. And I said, have you ever hurt your wrists, your knees, or your back? She's like, yes, lots of times. I fell last week. Blah, blah, blah. I said, cool. You should stop snowboarding. We should shut down snowboarding. Big White should go out of business. Let's shut her down because you pushed your limits to test yourself, to take a jump or go around or maybe a difficult hill. Maybe you're a blue diamond guy and you wanted to test out a black, right? Yeah. So things like that. Of course we're going to test ourselves, right? So when you're in the sport of it, or even just in a strength training program or cardio program, it's like, well, if you ran a 7-minute mile, you want to try to get a a 6:59 mile. Maybe you try a 6:45 mile.
Right.
Well, that means you're going to have to move faster. There's a higher risk of injury.
Yes.
And it's funny because it is a sport of fitness.
Yeah.
Right. But yet people don't even wince about putting their kid into football.
Right.
Which is like crazy concussions.
Yes.
And same with hockey.
Yeah, hockey.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm fortunate to coach a lot of hockey kids right now. And my biggest speech to the parents is, if you have extended benefits, go take your kids to Cairo, go take your kids and get their x-rays done, this. Your kids will hide that they're hurt. They don't know it. They won't know what a concussion is. And you have to have that. Because I played junior hockey very briefly.
Mm-hmm.
I had basically 2 months with the Penticton Panthers at the time. I got knocked out twice, 2 concussions. That's my number. That's my number. Yeah. You know how everybody kind of has a number where you start getting switched off in a regular? Yeah. Mine's apparently 2. Wow. Right? So, and I've had 2 more concussions skiing. But again, it's testing yourself. Did I have to go into the corner and, get body checked? Well, I'm testing myself. I could have laid back, or I didn't have to take that jump. Or when I was ski racing, I didn't have to go push myself and go over top of a berm. Yeah. Well, it's part of pushing yourself. And I'm not saying that that's the right way, but we all have an injury. Whether, you're walking around the house and doing some yard work and you pick up something you shouldn't have picked up without assistance, no different. Right. And I think as long as you have a coach around you or a personal trainer around you, making sure that you're in that good range of motion, good form, and good mobility and everything like that, then why not? You can test yourself. That's how we get strong.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. It's group personal training. Yeah.
That's a great.
Yeah, I think, and the biggest thing too is what CrossFit did. So CrossFit has been around since 1974. Okay. So it didn't get popular till the 2000s. It was just kind of low key in California with strength training. And really what it is, it's treating a normal human being like an athlete. Right. Teaching them how to train properly, pick stuff up, whether it's a deadlift or a clean or some Olympic lifting or some powerlifting. It's teaching them how to run and understand the different metabolic thresholds of cardio. It's teaching them some gymnastic movements. Like I said, it's pull-up, ring dips, or, just moving your body in a gymnastic type of way, or, but I think too that a lot of people get the wrong idea of it, because it rocked the boat of a lot of personal trainers not understanding why all of a sudden their clients are leaving for something different, because the personal trainers were all about the bicep curls, the tricep dips, the cable crosses, and everything else. Right. And all of a sudden you got this thing where all of a sudden you have this soccer mom at 48 years old grabbing a barbell, doing power cleans and, running a mile, and then coming back in doing power cleans and pull-ups and then going and doing that 5 times.
Right.
And she's now fitter than that personal trainer she had for 7 years.
Right.
It's pretty.
Yeah. Very neat.
Yeah.
I have 2 more.
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely.
So tell us about hormones. How does nutrition tie in with hormones?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, I got really interested because obviously I really damaged mine earlier in my life. And then training like this at a high intensity, it can have its effects on hormones. That's why getting enough food is so important. So I went and did some training and took some courses, and I'm actually working with a local naturopath on my own. And I love learning about the effects. So, if you're not waking up feeling super manly, okay, maybe our testosterone's down. What's good for testosterone? Weight training, getting in good amounts of fats, getting in a good amount of food. Same with women. So many women want to do low fat diets and no carbs. Well, that just damages hormones.
Right.
And especially in the realm of like high intensity training, a lot of women can lose their cycle. So I got really interested in how can I teach women that less isn't more. Eating less isn't going to make you look better. It's actually probably going to make you look thicker and fluffier because you're doing metabolic damage. Your hormones are going into the tank. They're not functioning. Maybe you're having thyroid issues. Those all are fueled and usually can be repaired by proper nutrition.
And we were told back in the day, and men were like this too, where, the men's go-to thing was steroids because we wanted to get bigger. Women's things were get on diuretics, high caffeine, all this other stuff that just lowers your body weight and burns fat. Well, again, we know that's wrong because it's doing, like Ali's saying, it did so much damage to her body.
A lot of, and my simplest questions are, what was your last diet? And I just ask them about it, and I'm like, sweet. And if I get a woman who's coming to me who's gaining weight, eating 1,000 calories a day, their cycle is crazy terrible, they're getting crazy PMS, they're breaking out in acne, and they're 40 years old, it's like, we need to get a hormone panel. Let's get some blood work. Let's see where your levels are at, because you're not eating enough and your body's just storing everything.
Yeah. Your body needs a certain amount of calories just to function, just to blink your eyes, to, walk around the house or whatever you're doing. You need something like 1,200. Women usually need about 1,200 calories a day or something.
No, like my size, just to sit on a couch all day, needs about 14 to 15.
Right.
I eat about, mine just got increased, but I'm about 2,000 to 2,500 is my range. And it's like, I'm not a big person. You need that much fuel. And so many women are eating under 1,200 calories, and it's like, you're not.
Wow. And they wonder why they don't burn any fat, because your fat is your fuel. So it just stores it. Because we can't get rid of this. We got to keep it because she's not eating enough or he's not eating enough.
Yeah.
And that's where men keep that little spare tire, because it's, like, well, I haven't eaten.
Or the little boobs.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And there's different qualities of calories too. It doesn't tell you the whole picture. I mean, if you're getting 2,000 calories from, high fructose corn syrup and, Coke and Coca-Cola, right? That's not going to cut it.
Yeah, and one of the things, Allie can kind of clarify this a little bit. I heard this, it was a guy, he's one of the nutrition coaches for Mike Dolce for UFC fighters. And his big thing is, don't count calories, make your calories count.
Right.
Right. And of course, you got to count a little bit of calories, because you got to have a certain amount of food intake to a point. But the ones that you are taking, make them count, like make them good. Right. Like, okay, you can, like we said, you can indulge with a cake here and there, but those aren't the good calories.
Right.
I fix quality before quantity.
Right.
I don't care if you're under or over. I'm going to get your quality changed before I touch anything else.
And I think the word diet is I'm not a fan of that word.
Yeah.
Because diet is simple as this. When I think of diet, I think of something that's going to be lasting you about 6 to 7 weeks to 9 weeks.
Right.
And then that's going to change your life and you can go back to what you're doing.
Right.
What we were trying to doing is we're trying to change your lifestyle of eating. It's simple as that. It's changing the lifestyle of eating. The word diet is it's so 70s, 80s, 90s.
Such a trigger word for people.
Right.
Totally. Yeah. I think it has negative connotations for most of us. It kind of implies sacrifice and suffering.
I think of Jenny Craig.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I'm not saying Jenny Craig's bad or good. I mean, you speak on Jenny Craig more than I can, but that's what I think of. I think of like these women that are on TV talking the testimonies, and also the next thing you know, they've done it for 9 weeks, they got it, and then you see the next picture of them eating cake. Right. So.
Right. Well, you are a big fan of cake.
I am.
So tell us a little bit about that.
I am.
I'm not in the cakes.
No, I'm not a bit. I mean, that's my go-to. I guess if I have
for your snack.
Yeah, if I have a snack, I love my banana cream pies. I love my.
Do you make cakes, or you just love them?
I do. I like my coffee cakes and stuff like that. But that's my one crutch. So.
Have you always golfed?
I started golfing, again, probably like most guys my age, in that era where Tiger Woods was lighting it up in 96, 97.
Yeah.
And I got back from Australia, and, I just started golfing with my parents, and then kind of took off from there. I was a member at Shannon Lake for about 5 years. Never took a lesson, still haven't. But just kind of learned as you go with, trial and error, and just loves it. I still love it to this point. I'm not obsessed with it where it's, die hard, but I'm like a mid-80s.
Right. Well, right? It's a nice sport. I played quite a bit as a teenager, kind of haven't played for a couple of decades now. My dad said, he used to say some of the best deals he made, business deals, were on the golf course.
Yeah.
Because you see how a person reacts under pressure, how they converse.
Yeah.
Are they cheating, right? Are they cheaters? Are they trying to, cut 100%. Corners? And when it's stressful, how do they react? Are they able to focus, right?
And we see that actually in CrossFit too.
Really?
Because we give you we'll just give you a sample of what a workout would look like.
Great.
Let's just say, I want you to do...
mine today.
Yeah. So, or even say 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and let's say a 1 mile run at the end of it. So you're plugging away at that 100 push-ups at the beginning.
Right.
And you start, miscounting your reps, or you start like, I'm at 80, I think. Right. And then you start doing your sit-ups. You're about 50. You're like, okay, my tummy's getting sore, or you didn't plan it, or you didn't strategize the workout properly, or, you're just like, okay, I got to get this done. And you're just kind of rushing the workout just to get it done.
Yeah.
So if you translate that into life, it's like, well, you're just rushing stuff just to get done. Like, do you have grit? Right? Do you put your nose down and put it into the hard work? Is it going to take you an hour? Yeah, it could take you an hour to do this. Is that 1 mile run? Like, that's a measurable movement, right? 1 mile is 1 mile.
Right.
It's not 1.2 miles. It's 1 mile is 1 mile. You're either going to run it or you're not going to. Right? So it's like a goal in hockey. It's either you're going to get that goal or you're not going to get the goal.
Right.
So we always say that. It's like, it's measurable, it's observable, it's repeatable. Right. So we want to make sure that people that are understanding that, it's like, it's going to be tough the first time you do that workout. It's measurable. It's observable. So we saw what you did. We can test you and fix your range of motion, or maybe make you more efficient in that movement. And it's repeatable. It's retestable.
Right.
So maybe the next time you do that, it's less than an hour, or whatever the workout would be, like half an hour, 30 minutes, or, then all of a sudden you notice your fitness level, your productivity, your work capacity is getting better. Yeah.
Very cool. Is there anything else you wanted to cover? I've covered all my questions.
I think one thing from a female point of view is, I don't know about you, but every time I meet with a new client, or I have a young new woman, or someone's wife come, they're worried they're going to get big. And they see these girls on Netflix watching, the CrossFit games or whatever. And they see this woman who's, 145 to 175 pounds of solid muscle. And it's like, her full-time job is to fuel, eat, train.
That's her job.
That's her job.
Yeah.
She trains 5 to 6 hours a day. She's probably eating 3 to 4,000 calories a day. We don't do that.
Right.
You're not going to. So just, unless that's what you're making your goal, it's just the same as anything. And the more muscle we have on our bodies, the more we burn. So ladies, don't be afraid to lift weights. Get away from the treadmill.
And I think you got to know what the background of that person is too. Like, I had that moment with someone where she was let's just say she was a skinny mini. She was Lulu fit, I call them, because they look good in a set of Lululemons, but that's all they care about. Right. And they're watching one of our athletes down on the floor. And this athlete, she's 5'7". Okay. She's in her mid 30s. She's 155 pounds, not solid muscle, but strong. She's looking down at this girl going, I don't want to be like that. And I said, sweetheart, you can't get like that. You're maybe 105 pounds. I would have to put you on so much steroids and increase your calorie intake dramatically that it would just destroy everything that you wanted to do. And hormones, like that, you'd almost have the opposite effect of what happened to Allie. But on the other spectrum. And I said, you don't know her story. Her story was that she came in at 185 pounds and she's down to 150. She's 5'7", lean, productive, has a great work capacity. And happy with her body.
And what you said at the beginning of the show about body image, it's really twisted for men and women.
Oh, totally.
But especially for women, I think you both agree a woman does not need to be, full of muscle to be attractive. It's just not the case.
No.
And she doesn't need to be 100 pounds to be attractive either.
Exactly.
Well, it was only not even 10 years ago or so, like pure sports science. They said no one will ever be able to do a 500-pound deadlift, run a 5-minute mile, and say do 50 pull-ups. That's a Tuesday for us, right? Like we've gone beyond that. We know how to do a pull-up and a deadlift, and we can run a mile. Like there's athletes that are doing that are breaking, right? So, again, it's what we do at Body Shop is we build a community, and that's the idea of what CrossFit is. The pure essence of what CrossFit is. It's a community of people that are no longer wanting the BS you say of the aesthetic, worrying about aesthetics so much than it is about productivity, functionality, and independent living. Having the goal of living into your 90s, die on your feet, medication free, right? That's what we all want, and living with your family. So we always say what goes on in the blue box on the west side, because we have this big blue building, great facility. It's a training center. It's a training facility. And it's not something where you have to worry about, standing in front of a mirror and
mirrors.
No mirrors, actually. We don't work with mirrors because you're always working with a coach. So we're a coach-led facility where you're constantly working with a coach. It's a little bit more expensive than a normal gym pass, yeah. But it's no different than, say, any car that you buy. We can buy a basic, you're not saying Fords are basic, but you can buy yourself a Ford or a domestic car, and then you can step it up and get something like an Infiniti or a Lexus, and then you can step it up even further. Like all personal training goes that same way. Gym and fitness does the same thing as well. So yeah, it's definitely a great facility.
What is the name of that facility?
So Body Shop Fitness. It's Body Shop Training Center or Body Shop Fitness and Nutrition.
And we'll put links in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So that's great.
Yeah.
So who would you like to nominate to come on the show?
So I have 2 nominations.
Great.
One, his name. They both work out with us. One is Jason Richards.
Okay.
So Jason Richards is a local entrepreneur. He's one of the owners that actually owns the Innovation Center downtown. He has a tech company. So I think something for a podcast about Kelowna. He's been in Kelowna for a long time. Him and his wife and his family. I think he's the same age as me, 43, 44, maybe even a little younger. But great guy, very good success story. So he went down to San Francisco, built a tech company, sold that, came back up here, that whole thing. Right. Lives in Kelowna. Very deep in that. And the other person is Daryl French. Okay. So Daryl French is also an athlete that works with us, or a gentleman that works with us, a close personal friend of mine. He owns Lending Max Mortgage.
Okay.
And so right up your alley, but at the same time, he's been around in Kelowna. I think actually Daryl's been around since 94. His son played for Max French, played for the West Side Warriors, is captain of the Warriors, and is playing overseas now in Europe. But Daryl and his wife Linda both work out with us, and Daryl, it's right up your alley of what you're. Lending Max, I think it probably work well with mortgages and that. And then and Morgan.
Morgan was the one I was gonna say from Meal Prep for You.
What's Morgan's last name? You can tell me later.
Dirkheimer or something, yeah.
So tell us just a little bit about Morgan.
Well, he's got this meal prep company. He also does some nutritional support there, but he just, he's helping people see that healthy food can be super tasty, and he's making it accessible. It's fast, it's to your house, and it's fun. Like, we actually used his donuts for our wedding. Like, that's how good they are. Yeah.
That's so cool. Yeah, and I'm going to get in touch with him right away.
He's amazing.
Because that's something we need.
And he has an app, which is really cool too. And you can just order everything off of his app.
Perfect.
Yeah. Super easy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your time. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
And I learned something, which is what my goals with this show is, to pick your brains and learn something about all kinds of topics.
Cool.
So I definitely learned about fitness and nutrition today. So
awesome.
Thank you both.
So much.
Great.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.